Monday night, Old Trafford, under the lights, and Manchester United need this, like really need this, not in a panic way, not in a desperate, backs against the wall way, but in that quiet focus, this is what we've been building towards way, the kind of need that comes when you can actually see the finish line, when you can almost touch it. And the finish line right now, Champions League football, back where this club belongs, 4 points. That's all Carrick side need from a possible 15 to mathematically secure a top 5 finish. 4 points in 5 games for a team that hasn't lost in 12. Think about that for a second. 12 games unbeaten. And people were writing this club off in January. But here's the part that makes tonight so fascinating to me. Because it's not just about United, it's about who stands in their way. Brentford, a side that has drawn their last 5 games in a row, 5 straight draws, 3 of them goalless. A side that knows exactly how to make a game ugly, slow it down, make it scrappy and walk away with a point. And that is a genuine problem, a real tactical problem, not because Brentford are going to outplay United, but because of how they do it. And I want to get into that deeply. But first, let me introduce myself, because if you're new here, welcome. I'm Bella. This is Bella Mufc Analysis. I'm a Manchester United fan, a football obsessive, and this channel is where I come to say exactly what I think. No media spin, no agenda, just honest football thinking. If this is your first time here, do me a favour, hit subscribe, and if you're already part of this community, you know what to do. Like the video, it genuinely helps more than you think. Now let's get into this. Right, Brentford, let me start with something that I think is being massively underrated in the build-up to this game. People keep talking about Brentford's draw streak as if it's a coincidence, as if it just happened. 5 draws in a row in the Premier League. That is not an accident. That is a system. That is a deliberate, disciplined, organised approach to football that Keith Andrews has clearly drilled into this squad. Now, I'm not saying Brentford are a great side. I'm not saying they're going to cause United problems all night, but I am saying that when you play a team that has learned how to not lose, that is a specific type of opponent. It is a different problem to solve compared to a team that comes at you. And here's where it gets interesting. United's best performances under Carrick have come against teams that come out and play, teams that give them space to transition. Teams where Fernandes and Cunha and Mbeumo can punish you on the counter, in the half spaces through clever movement. The Chelsea win, the Aston Villa win, even the Everton win. Those were games where United had room to breathe. Brentford are not going to give them room. Brentford are going to sit. They're going to be compact. They're going to crowd the space between the lines where Fernandes loves to operate. And they're going to try to make this a 0-0 at half-time and see what happens. So the question I'm asking heading into this game is not, can United win? I think they can. I think they probably will. The question is, can they be patient enough to unlock a side that has made not losing into almost an art form this past month? And that starts with Bruno Fernandes. Where do I even start? This man is operating on a completely different level right now. 109 key passes this season. Think about that number, 109. The next closest player in the league has 61. That is not a small gap. That is not a slight statistical advantage. That is nearly 50 more than anyone else. In the same division, playing the same games, that is extraordinary. But here's what I want to talk about that I don't think gets enough attention. It's not just the numbers, it's how he's doing it, because the Bruno Fernandes of 2 or 3 years ago was a hero ball merchant. I love him, but he was. Long shots when a pass was on. Ambitious through balls when the simple option was right there. Emotional, reactive, incredible talent, but occasionally costing the team. This Bruno, under Carrick, is different. He's a hybrid now. He drops deep to pull defenders out of position. He receives under pressure, plays simple, and then drifts into the right half space as the ball moves forward. And from that right half space, he's angled perfectly to either slide someone through or whip across into the box. It's incredibly intelligent movement, and it means defenders don't know whether to follow him deep, which creates space in behind, or stay in position, which gives him all the time in the world in that half space. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but that is the sign of a player who has genuinely evolved, not just improved, evolved. And for Brentford, containing him is their #1 tactical challenge tonight. Keith Andrews knows this. The data is right there. Only Arsenal have scored more goals from set pieces than United this season. 16 goals from set pieces for United. And Fernandes is the top provider from corners and free kicks in the entire division. 4 assists from corners, 4 from free kicks. So Brentford have to limit his influence from dead balls. They have to chaperone United's forward line, and they have to try to force Fernandes into defensive duties by pressing high and making him work without the ball. That's the plan. That's probably the plan. And in theory, it makes sense. But here's the problem with that theory. United's midfield right now is not a one-man band. It's not just Bruno, because sitting alongside him is Mbeumo. And Mbeumo this season has become one of the most important young midfielders in the Premier League. And I say that as someone who genuinely feels this, not just because he plays for United. Under Amorim, Mbeumo looked occasionally overloaded, like the system was asking too much of him, like he was constantly compensating for the shape rather than being given the freedom to just be himself. And he is a brilliant player when he's himself. He's composed, he presses relentlessly, he's comfortable receiving under pressure and turning. He carries the ball forward with purpose. Under Carrick, the system is built around him, not the other way around. And that distinction matters enormously because it means Mbeumo is now performing with freedom, with clarity, with confidence. And the results are right there in how United have played since January. Now, Brentford's midfield without Henderson, without Janelt, without the full complement of bodies they'd want. How do they deal with that? How do they match United's energy and quality in the middle of the pitch when they're already depleted? Because this is where I think the game could actually open up, and this is what I want to explore. Brentford's injury list is significant. Henderson is a major doubt. Janelt unlikely to feature. Rico Henry out, and their long-term absentees aren't coming back for this one either. That means Keith Andrews is probably fielding something very close to the exact same 11 that drew with Fulham. Same system, same approach, which, yes, keeps it consistent. But it also means United's analysts have watched that game. They know exactly what's coming. Carrick is not an amateur. This man managed Middlesbrough for years. He understands opponent preparation. He understands how to exploit a depleted side that is repeating its shape and structure out of necessity rather than choice. And here's the part one find really interesting from a tactical standpoint. When Brentford have been drawing these games, they've been doing it in both halves, drawing at half-time and drawing at full-time in 3 of the last 5, which tells me they're not a team that goes ahead and holds on. They're a team that grinds, stays level and hopes for a late moment, or just accepts the point. That means United need to score first. Scoring first in this game changes everything. Because if Brentford go behind, their entire game plan shifts. They can't just sit and defend. They have to open up slightly. And the moment they open up even slightly, United's forward line becomes genuinely dangerous. Mbeumo on the right, Matheus Cunha on the left, Benjamin Sesko through the middle. That is a front three that can hurt any defence in the Premier League when given even a little bit of space. But, and this is important, there's a decision to make there. Because Sesko was quiet against Chelsea, really quiet. He barely had an impact when starting at Stamford Bridge, and United won. They won 1-0, which means Carrick might ask himself whether the 2 striker variation, Mbeumo and Cunha as split attackers rather than a traditional number 9, actually gives them more flexibility, more movement, more unpredictability. What do you think? Would you start Sesko? Because for me, I go back and forth on this. On one hand, you want a physical presence. You want someone Brentford's centre-backs have to account for aerially, especially given the set-piece threat. On the other hand, if Cunha is playing as a 10 or a shadow striker, the energy and intelligence he brings to that space is almost unmatched in this squad. Carrick has a genuinely interesting selection call to make, and whoever starts, this is a game where United's attacking fluidity is going to be tested more by Brentford's organised structure than by individual quality. Now, I want to talk about something else because I think there's a bigger narrative here that people are sleeping on. This game is happening at Old Trafford under the lights on a Monday night with Champions League qualification on the line, and the manager on the touchline is a man who played over 450 games for this club, a man who understood the DNA of Manchester United better than almost anyone during his playing career. Carrick walked into this job in January, caretaker, interim. Everyone expected him to stabilise, collect some points, hand the keys over to whoever was coming in the summer, and instead, he's transformed the club. Top of the form table since January, 12 games unbeaten. A squad that looks confident again, players who look like they'd forgotten how to enjoy football under Amorim, now playing with expression and belief. I don't think we should take that lightly, because that doesn't happen by accident. Changing the culture of a dressing room, rebuilding trust with players, getting results in one of the most pressurised environments in world football, that takes something real. Something beyond just switching formations. He switched from Amorim's 3-4-2-1 to a shape that actually suits the players United have. A system where Fernandes and Mainu and Casemiro can function as a proper midfield unit, where the fullbacks have defined roles, where the attackers have genuine clarity about where their spaces are. It sounds simple when you say it out loud, it really does. But getting 10 or 15 elite level players to buy into a new idea in the middle of a season under massive public scrutiny, that is genuinely hard, and tonight feels like a moment, not necessarily a historic moment, but a moment where, if United win, the conversation around Carrick and his future at this club changes significantly. Because if he nearly gets them into the Champions League as an interim manager, how does the board justify replacing him? That's a whole other conversation, and I'll come back to it in a future video. Drop a comment if you want me to do a full Carrick deep dive, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. But back to tonight, let's talk about the head-to-head, because this is one of those statistics that actually tells you something meaningful rather than just being a number on a page. United have won all 4 Premier League meetings between these two clubs at Old Trafford, all 4, and Brentford haven't won at Old Trafford since 1937. 1937. That is not just history, that is a psychological weight. Whether players admit it or not, walking into that stadium knowing the away record is what it is, knowing the crowd will be loud, knowing the stakes are high, that affects mentality. And earlier in the season, the reverse fixture finished 3-1 to Brentford at the G-Tech, which means United have a point to prove as well. There's that extra edge, that extra motivation. We came to your place and you beat us 3-1. We're not letting that happen at home. Mbeumo scored in that game, didn't he, or was involved, and now he's at United facing his old club for the second time this season. That is a storyline that writes itself. And I genuinely want to see what he does tonight, because Mbeumo has been excellent for United since joining. He's direct, he's quick, he has good feet in tight spaces, and facing your former club always brings something extra out of a player. Here's something that I keep coming back to though, and I want to be really honest about this. I'm not completely comfortable with where United's defence is right now. I'm really not, and I think some fans are slightly glossing over it because the results have been good. But the fact that we played Chelsea with eyed in heaven, a teenager effectively, partnering a natural right-back in Mazraoui at centre-back, and we got away with it. We kept a clean sheet. But we got away with it. Maguire coming back helps. It really does. Because whatever you think of Harry Maguire as a player, and I know opinions are split, the man is a leader at this level. He organises, he communicates, he's aerially dominant. And in a game where Brentford might try to go direct at moments, having that aerial presence matters, but Yoro is still a doubt. Martinez is suspended, De Ligt is out, Dorgu is out. So even with Maguire, the defensive options are thin, and if Yoro can't go and we're back to Heaven and Mazraoui in the middle, then Brentford don't have to do much tactically. They just need to be physical, they just need to test that back line early and see if it holds. That's a worry, a genuine worry. And I'd rather be honest about it than pretend everything is perfect, because the form table looks good. The good news, the midfield in front of that defence is doing a lot of protective work. Casemiro has been better this season than his critics gave him credit for. He screens, he intercepts, he breaks up attacks before they become dangerous, and Mainu alongside him gives that midfield a dynamism and a work rate that covers a lot of problems. But there are scenarios in this game where Brentford get in behind, where the wide channels get exposed, and United need to be ready for that. Because a 0-0 after 60 minutes with a tired Brentford team pushing for something is dangerous, and it doesn't feel like a Carrick team to just sit on a goalless draw for 20 minutes either. He wants to play, he wants to go, so the message tonight for me is score early, control the tempo, and trust the forward line to be clinical when the chances come. Right, let me give you my actual prediction, because I know that's what a lot of you are here for, and I'm going to be genuine with you rather than just hedge. I think United win this. I think they win it 2-0, possibly 2-1 if Brentford grab a set piece late, which they're always capable of. But I think United's quality over 90 minutes, the home advantage, the motivation, the depleted Brentford squad, and Carrick's preparation advantage all point towards a relatively comfortable home win. The wild card is that first half. If it's tight at the break, if United haven't found a way through Brentford's structure, then it becomes a different game mentally. The crowd gets anxious, the players feel that, and suddenly a draw isn't impossible. But I don't think that's how it plays out. I think United come out with energy and intent, and I think they score before half-time. And once they score first, Brentford's entire game plan collapses because they can't park the bus. They're not built to come from behind. Their 5 draws tell you that. They're not a team that claws it back, they're a team that holds on. So the challenge for United is simple: make the first goal happen and the rest follows. Now, the bigger picture, if United win tonight, they are 3 points from confirming top 5 with 4 games remaining. That means they could potentially be celebrating Champions League qualification before the Liverpool game next. before the run-in. They could be in the Champions League before May. That would mean so much to this fan base, not just because of what Champions League football represents in terms of prestige and revenue and global profile, but because of the journey, because of where this club was 12 months ago. 15th place, lowest Premier League finish in the club's history, playing uninspiring football under a coach whose system never fit the squad, players looking lost, the fans despairing, and now, in the same season, under a different manager with largely the same players, they are on the verge of Champions League qualification. That is a story worth talking about. That is a football story worth actually stopping and appreciating, because it doesn't happen like this very often. You don't see clubs turn it around this dramatically, this quickly in the middle of a season. And credit where it's due. Yes, Carrick deserves enormous credit, but so do the players, because they had to be willing to change. They had to buy in. They had to trust a new system, a new voice, a new approach. And they did. Fernandes, Mainoo, Mbeumo, Cunha. They all look like different players from 2 months ago. Better, more confident, more connected. This is what football can be when the pieces fit, when the manager understands his players, when the tactics serve the talent rather than fighting it. Tonight is another chapter in that story, and I want to be at the next chapter and the one after that. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you genuinely. It means a lot that you're here, engaging, watching, thinking about this with me. That's what this channel is about. It's not about noise. It's not about hot takes. It's about actually thinking through the game together. Leave me your prediction in the comments. I want to know what you think the scoreline is tonight. And more than that, I want to know how you think United set up. Does Sesko start? Does Yoro return? What does the midfield look like? Let's talk about it, because that's what this community does. We don't just watch the game, we think about it. Manchester United, Old Trafford, under the lights, Monday Night Football, let's go.